I know Ambassador Boyd.
Carla has called this to order. So, welcome to the Health and Ed meeting for February 25th, 2025. We will begin with calling of the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gooch?
Here.
Commissioner Davidson?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver? Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd? Here. Commissioner McMurray?
Here.
Chairman Dodge?
Present.
Thank y'all.
And Commissioner Oliver sends her hellos, and she acknowledged she would not be here with us tonight. So we look forward to her at the next meeting. Vice Chair Wilson, the minutes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes from our January meeting. I find them to be in order, and without objection, I move for their approval.
Do you have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have any public comments, Carla? We will proceed with Health Department Assistant Director, Mr. John Blair. Mr. Blair.
Good evening. My name is John Blair, and I'm the Assistant Public Health County Director for the Health Department. Our monthly report is available on your screens. The Health Department continues to do good work to protect, promote, and improve the health of the people in Rutherford County. Currently, flu is on a downward trend, and our flu vaccines are free of charge at the Health Department. They are available during our walk-in hours between 8 to 10 a.m. and 1 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Also, all U.S. households are eligible to order 4 free COVID tests at www.covidtests.gov. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Committee, any questions for Mr. Blair? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
Motion to approve.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Blair also has a budget amendment. If you care to proceed, I wanted it as a separate motion.
Thank you. So next on our state contract, the state has asked us to present an amendment. The state wants to continue to fund the county raises from last July, and this amendment gives us that additional money. Since our state contract is a pass-through contract, it has no additional cost to the county. Just to clarify, this amendment is for the budget year that runs from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
So I'll entertain a motion. I'll let y'all kind of collect your thoughts. I think the motion is would be to accept the state grant as revised and presented. Trey, do you have a thought?
It was for what now?
So this is our yearly pass-through contract for our for a lot of our salaries, and basically what this does is the county last year was generous enough to give a raise, and this is the state amending their original contract to reflect the raises that came out in July of last year.
Motion to approve the contract as presented.
Thank you. And a second from Commissioner Davidson. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Chairman Dodge?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Mr. Blair. Do you have anything else for us?
No, sir, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is community care of Rutherford County. As our tradition is, the minutes are usually on the agenda. I've not looked close. This is 1 month. I must declare I did not get a chance to go through those minutes and highlight any items that are of interest to me. So I and others, please, if you have any thoughts or questions, be sure to look at those minutes.
We can just bring that back next month.
Yeah.
We'll get them.
Yeah, thank you, Trey. So that moves us on to the next item. School Board Deputy Director Dr. Kay Martin, I believe, is going to update us on the school board. We don't have any amendments tonight, so we have enrollment and just a board update. And I believe you all have a handout. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Yes, I put a handout on all of your tables. You will notice it is very similar on the front page as the last time I was here and gave that to you. Just some general information to share with your stakeholders if you need that. On the back side, tonight we thought we would share with you some of our latest highlights and snapshots of some of our celebrations in Rutherford County. That's the top portion for you. You can see everywhere from Kittrell all the way to the other end to Smyrna. We have lots of celebrations going on in our district. A lot of collaboration with our community stakeholders as well, and we appreciate all of those partnerships to support our students and teachers. So just some information and celebration. Again, just an overview for those who are watching. We have a celebration with all of our all-county bands that includes both our middle school and high school. We had over 215 students participate in that, and 23 of those students earned either all mid-state or all state honors, so we're very proud of those students. And then we also had a collaboration and worked with the Rutherford Chamber with our STEM students at Smyrna Middle and Smyrna High School and getting their input into all the programs and what that offers to them on a personal level. And then there at the bottom, some of our business for tonight. We had our job fair this past Saturday at Stewart's Creek High School. It was a great turnout, probably our best turnout since post-COVID. And so we really appreciate your support with that. To give you a specific example of how you're supporting that, we had a lot of teachers, new teachers, first-year teachers, but we also had many seasoned and veteran teachers coming from surrounding districts that are very interested in teaching in Rutherford County. We think that that comes from our recent boost in our salary increase for our teachers with the 20-plus years of experience. If you remember several years ago, once you reached the 20-year mark, then your salary stayed the same until basically your retirement. And we've adjusted that in the past couple of years, and that is really catching the attention of a lot of veteran teachers in surrounding districts. So thank you for your support. This evening, thank you, Commissioner McMurray, for joining us. We had our Teacher of the Year celebration at Embassy Suites. So we had 51 teachers to represent each of our schools. We also had our Supervisor of the Year, Miss Megan Turnbow, who is at the district level, and then also our Principal of the Year for our entire district, Mr. Steve Luker at Rockville High School. So we were very happy to honor those students and their dedication to our teachers and dedication to our students. Also recently, you may or may not have seen this, but there was a study completed by Harvard and Stanford, and it was a national study, and Rutherford County Schools was mentioned for having one of the highest post-pandemic academic recovery rates in the entire country. So that is that article is on our website if you would like to see more information about that. We always give you a enrollment. As of yesterday, we had 51,550 students in our district. And then our upcoming information that I know is a big interest to you all as well. We do have our new middle school, Poplar Hill Middle School, that we will be bringing up to bid. We will have bid for that February 28th. That's this Friday. We'll have the pre-bid March 11th at 10 o'clock, and then the bid opening will be March 20th at our Rutherford County Board offices at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, and thanks for the update on the middle school.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions? Yes, Mr. Gooch.
Quick question, and you may not know the answer off the top of your head, but do you know if the high school tennis teams charged a fee to play at the to practice at the tennis courts at
At Old Fort Park? I'm not sure, but I can get that information for you. I know a lot of them also use the Adams Tennis Complex there that's right next to that.
I'm talking
Oh,
about.
that's specific, yes, sir. I will look into that and get that information to
No
you.
rush, I was just-
Sure,
And the reason I'm asking,
that's an easy one.
well, the reason I'm asking is the taxpayers, well, the county taxpayers paid for half of that with the idea that our tennis teams would practice at no cost and would have a priority. And I'm just hearing some rumblings that we're paying.
Okay, I'll find that information out for you and get back with you.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Mr. Gooch. We'll look forward to hearing that answer. Any other comments? And I'll entertain a motion to approve Dr. Martin's report.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Thank you, and thanks, Dr. Martin, for
Thank
bringing
you.
the good news items. That's just great to hear. And tonight, the school board portion is light, no budget amendments, and I know we have heavy lifting with them coming up, so I'm glad it's light tonight because we do have a budget season upcoming. Anything else on the school board, Phil? All right. That concludes our typical 5-item agenda. Tonight, we have an extra item that's on your desk, item number 6. The mayor presented to us on the commission meeting of February the 13th, a governor's report discussing forensics around the state, which is a very interesting report and very compelling. New information for me. That night, Denise Martin, our death investigator, gave that report. It was rather brief. And then Chairman Pettis Reed of Public Safety made some comments and told us to anticipate that this report and this discussion of forensics was going to pass through every committee on its way to the full commission. And so tonight we will have that presentation. If you watched last night, Mayor Carr will make a comment. Eric Hennessy will lead the presentation with opening remarks. And last night, as was last night, EMS will present a couple of items, a couple of perspectives. KSA, I see the architecture firm is here. They will present some items on the building. And then the Sheriff's Department will have a conversation about some of their perspective. Then Eric Hennessy will conclude the remarks. So it's a good presentation. It's well organized. What I'm suggesting, if it's okay with this committee, is we hear from those 4 components and jot down your questions and thoughts and hold our questions until the end. And I've asked all of the presenters to stay if we have questions, and I want to make sure that's okay with you guys, if that's a good use of our time. If during the presentation something sounds particularly complicated and you may need to ask a question, I mean, that's okay, that's cool. But if you can, then with y'all's agreement, we'll hold to the end. And I believe Eric will request that a motion, a positive motion to forward this ahead will be the request. I'm good if it's a positive motion or a neutral motion. There's going to be a lot of budget questions, I believe, coming up from your committee, Trey. And then it's going to go to property management, where there'll be facility questions and even some budget questions if need be. Finally, it will go to budget and then to the full commission. So I know I'm going to have more questions as we move along, especially budget questions. Just trust that if you don't have your budget questions tonight, we get a shot at budget, and then all of us have a voice at the full commission in March. So any questions or thoughts? If not, I'll turn this over to Mayor Carr, who I believe will introduce Eric Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to make just a really brief statement. And last night, I want to thank the team for last night's presentation. They're essentially going to give you the same presentation again. Hopefully, Commissioner McMurray, you've had an opportunity to digest some of that and generate some more questions. I'm sure you have. Anyway, there was, I want to clarify a point that was made last night by one of the commissioners that the Forensic Center was an enterprise. It is not an enterprise. As a matter of fact, Rutherford County does not even have an enterprise fund after consulting with Michael Smith. Technically speaking, an enterprise is something as a for-profit entity that is for selling or manufacturing or exchange of goods or services. The Forensic Center is not an enterprise. However, it was asserted that we may be able to charge other counties for some of the services that we would perform for Rutherford County by statute. That is the case, but let me just share with you, that is in keeping with other departments within the county, like the Register of Deeds, like the county court clerk, like the clerk's office, building and codes, planning and engineering, I'm sorry? That's right, juvenile detention. So we have a number of departments that generate fees to offset the cost of operating that department. And even solid waste. If you take tires out there, you have to pay to deposit your tires. So the short answer is yes, there may be revenues generated as a result of the services offered, but it is exactly in keeping with the other departments and constitutional offices that we currently have. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hennessy.
Commissioners, good evening. I am Eric Hennessy, the Rutherford County Chief of Staff. I've been told that I need to speak up and speak slowly, so I am going to try to do that. Thank you. Commissioners, we are here tonight to talk about the need for a forensic center. I'm standing before you on behalf of the Mayor's Office, but don't think of this as a project of the Mayor's Office. It is much larger than that. In fact, this county has been talking about building a forensic center for well over 15 years, and the gentleman, Mr. Carl Hudgens, is sitting in the back of the room who's been doing a lot of that conversation. Also, the Tennessee Department of Health has identified this as an urgent need. I'm sure you all saw the report that Ms. Martin left for everyone at the last commission meeting. All Rutherford County public safety departments support the Forensic Center, as well as different municipalities within the county. Also, several counties outside of Rutherford County support our efforts in building a forensic center here in Rutherford County. Chairman, with your approval and kind of as you have outlined, first I would like to call up Denise Martin and Brian Gaither. These two people live with the burdens of not having a forensic center in Rutherford County every single day, and can provide detail on how this affects their departments. After they speak, Ron and Tyrone with KSA will come up and provide a brief PowerPoint presentation and explain the actual building design. Then we will have Captain Todd Sparks of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department come up and to provide some personal experience as he is the captain over the Detectives Division. Commissioners, I believe, even though we've been talking about this for well over 15 years, tonight's presentation may provide a little more information than what you have heard previously. At the conclusion of that, I will have some final remarks, and we will ask if there are any questions. As Chairman has said, we have asked everyone to stick around after the conclusion of the remarks. Denise?
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for allowing me to speak with you again this evening. I know that many of you may have already watched the presentation yesterday, but it is important to me personally for this committee to hear it. Our findings, our data directly impact public health. We impact the vital records, the fatality statistics. The medical examiner's office is typically the first identifier of any issues health-wise that is happening in our community. Also from the educational side, we hope to have a strong component of education from high school all the way through to college, through to med school, out of our facilities. So it's important both from health and education, and I hope you all recognize that. So, as I did last night, I wanted to present or take a step back and provide you with my credentials so that everybody understands or can appreciate why I can speak to this topic. I started in this field in 1998, over 25 years ago. I attained my bachelor's degree with a major in psychology and minors in criminology and criminal justice at MTSU, which is where I first studied forensics and where I first became involved in the work at the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensics Center, initially as a forensic anthropology student. I started work at the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensics Center in the early 2000s, first as a forensic technician and then as a medical legal death investigator. I worked my way up to the Director of Technical Services, a position I held for several years, overseeing the forensic tech department as well as autopsy operations. I was next promoted to the Director of both Technical Services and Investigation Divisions, a position I held for over 10 years. During that time, I attained my Master of Criminal Justice graduate degree from MTSU, graduating in 2011. I then attended law school while working full-time and attained my JD in 2015 and passed the bar exam that same year. I am admitted to practice in both Tennessee state and federal district courts. I left the Middle Tennessee Forensic Center in 2016 to practice law full-time as a civil litigation attorney and focusing on healthcare and medical type cases. In 2018, I started work at the Office of the State Chief Medical Examiner as a state medical legal death investigator involved in training our county medical examiners and their investigators, among other interests of the state. Then in March 2020, I accepted a part-time position as the death investigator instructor with the Rutherford County Medical Examiner's Office within EMS, with the successful aim of bringing EMS supervisors up to state and national standards in death investigation. This part-time position quickly developed into the need for a full-time position, that of Supervisor of Death Investigations, my current position. This was also the first time that I learned that we don't even have a county morgue in this county, and we still don't today. I successfully applied for a grant to convert part of the Salem EMS station into a formal Rutherford County Medical Examiner's Office with a fully equipped post-mortem external, meaning non-autopsy exam room. And I later obtained a second grant to hire 2 experienced, credentialed full-time medical legal death investigators, which was a first for Rutherford County. I am board certified through the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. I'm also a medical legal death investigator within the Disaster Mortuary Operations Response Team, DMORT Region 4, as an intermittent federal employee within the National Disaster Medical System. As I said yesterday, I didn't tell you all that just to brag. I want you to understand that I have a comprehensive experience in this field. I have experience in operations of regional forensic centers and their statutory requirements. And I have watched this county rapidly grow from a rural county to the 4th largest county by population, now a mainly urban county with metro issues. We do border Metro Nashville-Davidson County, so it should be no surprise, unfortunately, that violent crime, drugs, and other such concerns inevitably spill into our county. As our population grows, so unfortunately do the number of deaths. In turn, so do our number of autopsies and need for medical legal death investigations. Our former EMS director and county coroner, Carl Hudgens, recognized the need to plan for this forensic center over 15 years ago. And I hope that you have now taken the opportunity to read and digest the contents of the Tennessee Department of Health contracted for feasibility study that was distributed to you all in our last commission meeting. This study was performed and published by an independent, unbiased, neutral third party and panel of experts. Having read this study, you should have no doubt that we are not alone in our firm belief that a forensic center should be located and operated in Rutherford County. As page 3 states, and I quote, "All authority rests at the county level for medical legal death investigations in the state of Tennessee," end quote. It is a county responsibility for medical legal death investigations to be performed appropriately and thoroughly. and that all forensic autopsies are being appropriately and accurately performed. The report indicated and documented concerns relating to the capacity of the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, delays in examination, leading to potential for deterioration of the body and evidence degradation, concerns about high daily caseload, limited storage, and inability to handle a mass fatality incident. As highlighted on page 26, and I quote, "The Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center projected to serve a population of nearly, now over, 3.7 million, for significantly below SWIG MDI recommendations. The current facility sized at 20,000 square foot is far below the recommended 72,682 square foot. It lacks adequate autopsy space, body storage capacity, and autopsy stations," end quote. These issues, along with documented concern for insufficient staffing at the facility, the assessment team concluded that, I quote, "These deficiencies pose a critical vulnerability in the provision of autopsy services in the Middle Tennessee region," end quote. Just for some reference, the SWIG MDI stands for the Scientific Working Group for Medical Legal Death Investigation within NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The respected research paper referenced to and utilized in the research and findings of the feasibility study was authored and approved by past and present presidents of the National Association of Medical Examiners, as well as other members, officers, leadership of NAME, ABMDI, and IACME. All of these are accrediting bodies of the forensic centers and their staff. The study goes on to state on page 19 that, I quote, "Notably, among the top 5 populous counties, Rutherford County stands apart as the sole jurisdiction that lacks its own forensic center," end quote. And the study concluded on page 29 that, end quote, "The assessment team strongly believes that Tennessee urgently requires at least one additional regional forensic center to alleviate the strain faced by the Middle Tennessee RFC. Ideally, this facility would be situated in Rutherford County," end quote. Many different agencies and departments within the county and its municipalities are impacted by or involved in death investigations and forensics. They have vocalized support for the need and necessity of a Rutherford County Forensic Center. In fact, the Rutherford County Forensic Center is supported by the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Rutherford County EMS, the Rutherford County Fire Marshal's Office within Rutherford County Fire and Rescue, the Murfreesboro Police Department, Rutherford County Emergency Management, and the Smyrna Police Department. The county and municipal agencies have stressed current challenges affecting productivity, travel time to and from the Nashville facility, burdening overtime budgets, the need to become a priority instead of jostling for position among 63 counties, and issues with communication that is detrimental to case investigations, to name but a few. Issues that would resolve with the Rutherford County Forensic Center. The Rutherford County Center would prioritize Rutherford County cases. Each regional forensic center in Tennessee also serves as the medical examiner's office for that jurisdiction or the county in which it's located. So each regional forensic center is therefore expected to prioritize its own county's autopsies and investigations. Unfortunately for Rutherford County and 2/3 of the state, we do not currently have that priority. We have received written support from many counties' medical examiners' offices, a Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, the District Attorney's Office, hospitals, and institutes of higher education. Having a Rutherford County Forensic Center would immediately unburden our incredibly busy EMS service and its shift supervisors of performing work that is outside of its emergency medicine mission, that of saving lives and provision of emergency medical care. In fact, at this time, I'll ask Brian Gaither, our Director of EMS, to elaborate a little on that piece.
Good evening. So currently, our EMS supervisors spend a significant amount of time conducting death investigations due to the lack of 24-hour medical examiner investigative coverage. While this responsibility is part of their job description, it's not their primary role, nor is it where their training and focus should be. Our supervisors are first and foremost EMS providers dedicated to saving lives and providing emergency medical care. When they're tied up investigating deaths, often for hours, it not only pulls them away from their primary duties, but also adds unnecessary stress and contributes to burnout and potential PTSD. Additionally, because death investigations are not their main responsibility, there's a risk that these cases may not receive the same level of thoroughness that a full-time trained investigator would provide. This is not a reflection on our supervisor's dedication, but rather an indication that we need a more specialized approach. A forensic center in Rutherford County would alleviate this burden, and ensuring that death investigations are handled by experts while allowing EMS providers to focus on what they do best, caring for the living. It would also improve the quality and efficiency of forensic work in our community, benefiting law enforcement, public health, and the families that are affected by these tragedies. I strongly urge you to support the Forensic Center to provide the professional, round-the-clock investigative resources our county needs.
Thank you. So I'll conclude with a discussion on costs. There are real and hidden costs involved. Currently, we're expending almost $1 million on vendor autopsy services, including transportation out of the county. This number will continue to increase, not only due to our continued population growth, but also on fee increases from the for-profit company who operates the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center in Nashville, and due to transportation cost increases. As you should recall, we have had 4 significant fee increases within 4 years as relates to autopsy fees, with little notice and mid-fiscal year each time. We are anticipating another one soon based on historical regularity. As a reminder, the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center currently charges us $2,500 per autopsy, compared to around $1,900 charged by the Knox County RFC. The cost of the required county-level medical examiner's office is around $500,000 when fully staffed. The Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center would combine the 2 services, that of the autopsy service and our medical examiner's office, effectively absorbing the medical examiner office and moving the current staff, offices, and equipment into that facility. The only additional staff that would be needed at first would be a forensic pathologist, 2 forensic techs, and an administrative assistant. By combining these 2 services in-house, we would anticipate significant cost savings over what is currently being spent to send our autopsies out of county. Other cost reimbursement would be available to us from the state, including $150 per autopsy, $1,250 per infant autopsy, and a toxicology reimbursement share, amongst other things. We would immediately see annual cost savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars based on the additional sources of revenue just mentioned, and from cost savings from running our own department. If the county then offers services to other counties, which would, of course, require more staff to be added, additional revenue from the autopsy fee service would be realized, offsetting significant operational costs. But these are just the surface level costs. The hidden costs we currently incur should not be ignored. Overtime incurred by law enforcement and other agency investigators currently having to travel through heavy traffic to and from Nashville. Autopsy scheduling issues caused by Nashville's high daily caseload and our lower priority level. Often law enforcement investigators are caused to miss being present for the exam because of that high daily caseload, or having to wait sometimes all day. There's stilted communication regarding case findings and progress, a real cost to our investigations and to our families, both as relates to peace of mind and closure of estates. The cost passed on to families due to local funeral homes having to travel to North Nashville to transport decedents' remains back to our county for their final arrangements. And the cost to legal next of kin who are being charged for autopsy and investigative and toxicology reports by the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center. The hidden cost that our director has just mentioned of the hours its supervisors are having to dedicate to death investigation instead of emergency medicine, and the cost to our judicial system when we consider the quality and timeliness of those reports. The cost savings are significant. The Rutherford County Forensic Center would directly benefit the budget and be fiscally responsible. I will end with a quote from the original white paper drafted almost 10 years ago, which continues to be pertinent today. A Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center would provide Rutherford and surrounding counties with a long-term, sustainable, cost-effective means of providing medical legal autopsy service for a rapidly growing population. Thank you.
Chairman, at this time, I'd like to ask for KSA to come forward.
Carry on. Hey, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Tyrone Bunyan. I am a project architect and project manager for the Forensic Centers Lab.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Ron Cosentino, Senior Architect at KSA. Again, Ron Cosentino, Senior Architect at KSA, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to present this project to you. We've been working on this for several months, spent a lot of time and hours in coming up with what we feel is a sophisticated design that really embodies the spirit of what Rutherford County wants to accomplish. Before I continue, I also want to mention that we are the principal architects on the project. We were also assisted by MWL, which is our consulting firm. They specialize in autopsy theaters, examination labs, and forensics facilities. So I think we should mention them as well. So when we look at the project, the facility, it's about 15,000 square feet of forensic center space. We're looking at about 7,700 square feet of autopsy theater. That includes examination labs, X-ray facilities. And then on the opposite wing, there are about 4,400 square feet of office and administration space. So I just want to lay that out as we go through the presentation. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. All right.
You got here.
Is this right? Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the site before we go directly into the floor plan. So as you see, the proposed building is the building in blue. That is the Forensic Center. As I mentioned already, about 15,000 square feet. And this will be the first phase of what is proposed as a larger complex or larger facility of other government buildings. To the east, there is a proposed potential office building, and to the south, an EMS bay. If you are familiar with this site, this is right by the Rutherford County County Clerk office. If you're familiar with the site, if you're looking at it now, you might notice that I Street is interrupted. We're proposing an interruption of the I Street so that we can properly segregate the staff entry, which should be secured at all times, from guest entry. And we have a separate zone to allow the county clerk to enter to that parking facility down at the south. And then the proposed entry is for the guest as well as the staff parking to come through the north side of the site. That would be off of 9th Street, if you're familiar with the site, or 9th Avenue, I'm sorry. So that's basically what we're looking at now. Another thing that you might notice is that there's a space outside for that patio area and a garden area that would be for the staff to have lunch and things like that. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the floor plan. I'll talk briefly about the floor plan, and then I'll pass it over to Ron to talk a little bit about the floor plan. Just really quickly, as you see, there is a deliberate alignment of the program to keep the autopsy theater separate from the administrative and office wing. That's done deliberately, so there isn't too much cross-contamination. To the left, you see the orange outline of the building. That is your autopsy theater. That is your forensic pathologist labs, your X-ray facilities. To the east side of the building, we have the office and admin wing. As I mentioned already, to the north, you have the entry where the guests would come. That would be your bereaved family who passed away. I think one of the nice things that we've allowed is a nice meeting area for the family to come in. They'll be meeting with a therapist to talk through the progress and things like that. There's a conference room for staff, as well as forensics tech area and investigations areas as well. And we have several offices. I'm going to pass it over to Ron and talk a little bit about the other parts of the building.
As you can see in the layout, there's a orangey space on the side. That's the lab area. The lab area is separated from the public or the office side, very clearly defined, so that what happens is that there are card readers where someone with an ID card can access only into certain areas. When you take a look at the overall plan at the south end of it, there's a sally port. At that point, someone from a funeral parlor can come in through that area, very specifically using a card reader to get into the building. At that point, he can go through the, where you see on the lower left corner of that building is a cooler, so that funeral director can deposit the deceased into that cooler area without actually adding into the rest of the building. Very important that he has access only to that cooler area. At that point, he then can exit the building. From the other side, when the employees come in, they have access to all of the spaces with card reader. This minimizes any people, public or employees that are in the office side from getting into a lab area. You'll also notice that in the lower end of it, there's a mechanical room, which is just below the south of the sally port. There's a mechanical room, there's a storage room, and to the extreme lower level, on the left side, there's two spaces for refrigerated semi-trucks. There's a loading dock right there, so that in the event of a major disaster of any kind, they can have two semis pull up to that area, and we have places where they can pull in. And if you noticed in the site plan, we calculated the turning radius for semi-trucks to get in and actually pull out later on. But that is the general layout for that plan. The other thing is that on the extreme left side is an expansion space. So we've planned for an expansion space that will very easily be done. What happens is, if you take notice on the cooler, which is the lower portion of that on the left side, knockout panel, so that there's no interruption to services. What happens is they start building this addition, and when it's complete, they knock out a panel in the cooler, giving them access to the new addition. So there's another one on the upper portion of that space. On the extreme right side is also a space allocated for future office addition. Basically, that's the layout for the plan. It works very well. We've had our consultants review it. They have the experience with these labs, and it's worked very well.
All right, let's briefly talk about the exterior of the building, or the architecture of the building. So we wanted to design a building that was fitting of the minimalistic and scientific ambitions of the facility. We wanted to design something that was minimal and contemporary and forward-looking, something that Rutherford County could be proud of. And so one of the design concepts we came up with was coming up with some streamlined, modernist architecture. One of the design challenges that we were faced with was, because this is an examination lab, glazing was not preferred. One of the strategies we used was pushing the glazing up towards the top of the building. You'll see much smaller windows that you'll see, as opposed to what you'll see in a normal building. But how we handled that was pushing the windows up to the top and creating some type of, I guess what you would call it, opaque panels down there at the bottom. If you see towards the side of the building, as Ron already mentioned, we have a future expansion. So what you'll see now is that's ghosted out as what could have happened in the future as an autopsy expansion in the near future. That's both for the autopsy theater, and then, of course, as we have that come in, we'll have expansion for the offices. The offices will be expanding as well. So that is that. So just very briefly, just going counterclockwise from the top left, you see the exterior of the building. We see the exterior outdoor eating space for the staff. We thought that would be a nice place for staff to gather, get a bit of fresh air for them. Top right corner, you see the lobby entry. Again, that's for the guests, the bereaved families to come in. This is separate from the staff entry, which is a secured parking down at the south part of the site. This elevation is facing 9th Avenue. Toward the bottom left of the building, you see the Sally Port, which Ron has already talked about. This is where the decedents will come. They'll be dropped off. They can be dropped off 24 hours. There'll be a secured gate there. And then bottom right, that is an overview. That is the full project with the expansion included in mind with the guest entry.
This is a breakdown of the current state of the project in terms of the estimated cost. What you see in here is that there's a bottom number of $15 million. That is the absolute maximum that will be expended on this project. Currently, the contractor, the construction manager at risk, is reviewing a lot of these costs and is finding out there are savings. So we are assured that it's going to come in well below that $15 million. The question is, we will have more of that information later on. But currently, we're looking at, when you can take a look at this, we take a look at the building costs on that schedule. You can see that there's also a owner-controlled contingency, $783,000. And that's in there strictly for the owner's use in the event that he wants to change something or something comes up that this money is strictly for the owner's use in this project. The total, again, as I'm going to say, is the $15 million, which is at this point still the maximum, and the construction costs are being developed further, but it will be below that number. I think that's about all I can go over with this at this point, because it's pretty clear as to where we've gone with this.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Commissioners, I hope you were as impressed as I was with Ms. Martin's credentials. She is by far an expert in her field, and I believe that we are lucky here in Rutherford County to have her as an asset. I believe the presentation by Ron and Tyrone shows that we can have a state-of-the-art facility that will be something to be proud of. At this time, I would like to call up Captain Todd Sparks. He will come up and provide us some of his personal experiences regarding not having a forensic center here in Rutherford County.
So good evening. As you stated, I'm Todd Sparks. I'm the captain over investigations for the Sheriff's Office. I don't have quite the impressive list of credentials that Director Martin does, but I can assure you that I've learned some things from her over the years. I will say that I'm in my 30th year at the Sheriff's Office, my 27th year in investigations. So as far as credentials are concerned, I've got a couple of hundred or more death investigations being involved in that, either as directly as an investigator or from a supervisory standpoint. I'm speaking to you of course, on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and our staff, but I can say with confidence that I'm also giving voice to my investigative counterparts with both Smyrna Police, Laverne Police, as well as Murfreesboro Police Department, as I've spoken to them directly about this project, and we all share similar concerns and frustrations. I don't want to take a lot of your time just to explain to you some of those frustrations. Director Martin has already explained that some of those deal with efficiency. time is of the essence in death investigations, especially on the law enforcement side. One of the biggest frustrations for us is having to remove that investigator from the investigation here within our county, spend literally hours at times driving to Northeast Nashville, at times to find out that an autopsy has already been conducted before we got there because of scheduling conflicts. We weren't notified. Sometimes to get there and find out that the autopsy is going to be rescheduled. That is crucial time in an investigation that is taking those guys out of the field and now putting them on wait. What's even more frustrating in a death investigation, especially from a supervisory standpoint, not every death investigation is the same. Some of them are pretty cut and dry. You know how a person was killed, whether it be a gunshot wound or a stabbing victim, whatever. There are some obvious things. More often than not, there are things that are not so obvious. So we rely heavily, of course, upon the information that we receive from the medical examiner's office. What we've experienced over the years, and I could give you a long list, I'm going to give you an example of a few that resonate most recently with us, but is communication and the efficiency in receiving information back to us. In those circumstances where we have death investigations that are not obvious, we have to wait to see what's coming back. We have to wait to see what the findings are. A lot of times we don't get any conversation with that pathologist or with the investigators with the medical examiner's office. So we're the ones that have to answer to the families. We're the ones that have to explain, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. Sometimes the waiting turns out to be a natural situation. We've had those pretty often. But sometimes we find out information that we are way behind the curve on. Most recently, last year, we had a young adult male, no obvious signs of foul play, no obvious signs of why he died. 5 months, we learned that he had died of an overdose. That's investigation. That investigation is a homicide investigation for, if you may or may not know, but if we have an overdose victim, we pursue those cases as a homicide because there are state statutes that allow us to charge drug dealers with second-degree murder. And we pursue those cases and have been successful in that. But 5 months puts us way behind the curve. Last year, we had a 3-month-old infant that died at a residence, not tremendous living conditions, but no obvious signs of foul play. It took us 4.5 months to receive a report that indicated that that child died from a methamphetamine toxicity. That's a homicide investigation, folks. A 3-month-old doesn't take methamphetamines. We're 4.5 months now behind the curve on trying to investigate that homicide, only to find out later that the medical examiner's office actually had the information that we needed within 2.5 weeks, but it was never provided to us. So communication is a huge issue. Efficiency is a huge issue. Other cases just like that where we've had to wait months to find out information that has already put us behind the curve. What a forensic center in Rutherford County will do for law enforcement will increase communication, increase positive outcomes in a much more efficient and effective manner. We've been saying this for years. This is not a new vision. This is not a new concept. Carl Hudgens and I have talked about this for years, going back to investigations where we were on scenes together. It's way overdue in this county. We believe that we have an opportunity here to be a resource. That's one of the things that we look for in criminal investigations division at our department, is that at the point that we're here in Rutherford County, at the 4th largest county in the state, we look to where we're becoming the resource for folks, not having to rely upon outsourcing everything as much as we have to. We're way beyond that point where we need to be a resource. The center obviously offers great things for law enforcement. It offers not just for investigations, but it offers training for our investigators so that we can be better. It offers education for students. I think down the road, the long-term vision is for that. We use those students. We work in those internship programs. I just hired a young lady who just graduated from the forensic science program as a new crime scene investigator. Tremendous amount of opportunities for Rutherford County to step up into that next level, and we're way past due. So from a law enforcement perspective, from the sheriff's office, we 100% support this project. We have for a very long time. From an investigator standpoint, it is a much, much needed resource. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Captain.
Commissioners, the final point I want to make is something that the mayor's office believes is one of the greatest features of this project. We can accomplish everything you have seen here tonight without raising taxes or borrowing money. Over the last 2 years, Ted Beatty, Michael Smith, and Mayor Carr have worked diligently to increase the fund balance. This increase in the fund balance is what has provided us with one-time money necessary to pay for this project, while still maintaining our AAA bond rating. As this is one-time money, the mayor's office believes that the best use of these funds is for projects that reduce the annual budget. And that is exactly what this project will do in a significant way. Tonight, we are asking for a motion to send this on to the County Commission with a positive recommendation out of Health and Ed. We will take any questions that you have.
Committee, the floor is open for questions from any of the parties who have spoken. Mr. Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know we've been looking at this for quite a number of years, even in the prior administration. And it's very exciting for me to be at this point right here, right now, where we can move it forward to fruition. And I think that every presenter did an awesome job. And they've answered my questions as we went down the road. And I think that one thing I would like to point out in your introduction is that this is bigger than just a mayor. Much bigger than one office, one department, because you can see all the departments that it would have an impact on, not to mention the families who can have this here. No one wants to talk about it, but just to have this kind of service here that would help in solving crimes, giving family notice of what happened without having to go to Nashville and wait. And I think just the fact that we're having to wait so long is not good. One question I do have is, I've seen a map where these counties go to Nashville and these counties go to Knoxville and so forth. What counties would we serve? And I know that you had mentioned that other counties are in support of our facility here, but do you know what counties that we could potentially be serving that would be more advantageous than, say, going to Nashville?
Obviously, I can't commit any county individually to come to us, but I will assure you I've had a lot of direct communication with many of them, and they want another option. They have the same concerns that we have been experiencing, and they voiced them to me. I've had communication with counties that are far west Tennessee that have even said, we are looking for another option. We need another option. I think we would directly reach out or entertain the ability to assist other counties that are more directly surrounding us, for sure. Obviously, we want to cap the number. We want to not get in the same situation as the strain has demonstrated on the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, but there are several that have reached out. I just don't feel comfortable saying. You've obviously seen the letters of support from Giles County, from Putnam County, and 5 counties from West Tennessee, but like I said, there's many medical examiner offices that have reached out that have said, we're ready to go when you are. It's just, like I said, we want to make sure that we are being responsible and not exceeding a number, but there are several. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Ms. Davidson.
I think you've covered it before, but I just want to make sure we get that clarified again. How many forensic centers in this state? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the counties that had one shut down and they were only going to do their own. So how many actively in this state do we have?
There are 5 currently in this state. There's one up in East Tennessee in Johnson City. They sort of service the top corner of our state. There's one in Knox County. It's a county-run facility, and they do about 20 counties outside of Knox County. There's one in Hamilton County, and they have only ever done Hamilton County. There's the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, like we mentioned, is doing 2/3 of the state, is doing 63 counties. And the one in Shelby County, which used to do about 8 other counties, but they lost a forensic pathologist that was recruited to the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, and so they made the difficult but smart decision to say we're just going to service Shelby County.
Any other questions or comments? And Laura, was that?
Right. Well, actually, this map has changed a little. Let me use a different map. If you, I believe it's in the state contract. I believe. Hope. No. Maybe it's not. Okay, I'm just going to use this one, but this yellow area down here, other than the one I've got my finger on, which is now Shelby County. So these yellow ones are now mixed in with all these pink. So essentially from the East Tennessee line all the way across, including the yellow, apart from the one I've got my finger over, is now serviced out of the Middle Tennessee region. So it's over 2/3 of the state is going to one center, which unfortunately the higher the volume, the higher risk of mistakes, unfortunately. That's a known fact.
Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Martin, or maybe Mr. Gaither, one, this county commission has been emphasizing planning for the future, and I don't mean 5 years from now, but a long time into the future, 20, 25, 30 years. Could you guys explain your vision for the Forensic Center and how this particular building fits into that long-term vision?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, it's a needed project. You've heard from Captain Sparks and our EMS director and many others that have voiced why we need this for us. We are the 4th largest county by population in Tennessee now. This is something that we should have. We're the only one out of the 5 regional forensic centers, like I said, of the top 5 most populous counties here now. So it is something that should be a natural progression for us, that we take care of our own. But the design plans, as Tyrone and Ron explained, have built-in expansion zones that would not require any cessation of operations. If we were to expand, it can be done essentially overnight once the expanded areas are built out to be able to make it operational for those expanded areas. So we're looking to continue to be of service, and that's one thing that each of the regional forensic centers has learned as they did not plan for the future. This one specifically has learned from their mistakes. 2 of the regional forensic centers are in the process of building new facilities, or in fact, Hamilton County is looking to remodel another facility just because they did not plan ahead, because their buildings could not be expanded. We're making sure that we are planning for the future so that we have that ready to go, and the design of the building specifically talks to that.
Thank you, Chairman Phillips. Any other questions for the presenters? And we will, Eric, any other comments? We can proceed with our consideration, and will y'all stick around if questions develop during discussion? Guys, are y'all, ladies, are y'all ready to discuss this amongst ourselves? And then,
Chairman, I have been asked to let you know that Commissioner Pettis Reed would like to speak on this topic as well.
Chairman Reed's welcome. Chairman Reed, you've been asked to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to stand up here before you. I think one of you or someone has mentioned here about how long we have been kicking this can down the road and talking about the fact that Rutherford County needs a forensic center. When I became a commissioner in 2014, there was a discussion about a forensic center and what we were dealing with and the cost that it was costing Rutherford County. And then as I went further on, we still were talking about it. Then we come into another time, we're talking about it again. And it makes you wonder how long we can keep talking. Because I think you find out, just like with schools or anything else, the more you put it off, the more it costs us. The more we get behind. I think I told the committee last night that anybody got a can, we can just put it right out here and we just start kicking it again right on down the road, and it just puts us further and further behind. Every public safety meeting that we have a form that shows us how many autopsies we're doing right now. And it gets larger and larger and larger all the time. It starts costing us more and more and more. Close to $1 million a year. $1 million a year we're sending to Nashville from Rutherford County. From the taxpayers of Rutherford County, we're sending $1 million down that way, which could be used here for our own forensic center. You've heard the concerns we have, the problems we have. That's not just only the department's concerns, that's the families of Rutherford County who are standing out there waiting for their loved ones and the information to solve a crime, to solve a problem that, hey, they don't know why they died or how they died. You know, a lot of times things don't bother us until it affects our own family. Well, as we continue to grow, I know people get excited about the fact that now we're the 4th largest county. But you know, everybody talks, well, that just means a whole lot of wonderful things for us in Rutherford County because we're growing. But it also brings other things to us too, the problems as well. You know, if it used to be that I'd turn on the television in the morning, and I've quit doing that because I'd be on a Nashville station, and every morning you see where somebody's been killed or some kind of problem. So now I turn it on WGNS and look at their news, and we've got the same thing happening right here. It's either Murfreesboro or Smyrna or Laverne. And that's ours. You can read the Tennessee Code annotated where it says that someone who dies in this county in these unsuspecting situations, it's our responsibility. So we have to pay for it. We have to deal with it. And I think this is what the Forensic Center will help us in this situation. We now have our own Rutherford County Opioid Board. A lot of the information we got in the Opioid Board come from information that comes from these situations. It helped us slow down or give of a situation where we could get money out there to help people deal with this situation. Guess what? When you slow down one type of drug in this county, another one seems to creep in and cause a problem. The opioid board right now has given the sheriff's department a machine that sort of tells them what kind of drug is out there, where we can actually analyze it within the sheriff's department, where we know beforehand, before somebody touches it or whatever that could absorb within the skin or this sort of thing, to help us deal with that. But also prevents maybe we lead to more deaths than whatever. The Forensic Center is an answer for right here to take care of Rutherford County. We're not waiting. We're not being put behind on everything. You've got to think about 53 counties are going to Nashville, and that means we've got to go get in line. Got to go in line. You know, I've always heard that if you're not the big dog, you don't get to sit on the front porch. And right now, we're down here underneath the porch. So I want Rutherford County to go sit on the front porch for a while, and we got to build our own front porch. And I would ask that you please help us push this on to go on this direction, because now is the time to do so. And I ask for your help.
Thank you, Chairman Reed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you. I'm going to stand for this. The original thought was a concept back almost 10 years ago, and it's taken this long to get us here. Our decision is not maybe where it's needed, but when it might be needed. We expended money over the last 5 years that related to public safety buildings, and we did that because we had the money available and it was not a burden to the taxpayer. This is an extension of our public safety initiative. And we also have the opportunity to build this facility right now on the northern end of the county and expand government, county government, to that end of the county, which has a higher population increase. There's several things that I may like to say, but to me it's a matter of timing. Do we put it off again? And the reason we haven't done it before now was because of finances. And you heard it, with good physical financial responsibility, starting with the mayor's office and starting with and continuing with Michael Smith, our finance director, and Ted Beatty, our trustee, have created funds that we can expend. In essence, we can write a check and not have to put it on the tax burden long-term for the county. To me, the time is now, and we don't need to kick the can down the road. I know that there are those that have concerns, and I can't find fault in what you're saying. But for this commissioner, the reason that we haven't done it before now was actually from a financial burden, long-term financial burden to the county. The time is right. We don't need to kick that can down the road. And if you look at someone mentioned, I believe it was the mayor that mentioned an enterprise. I think that's what the Forensic Center in Nashville is a for-profit enterprise. For-profit. We will not be a for-profit enterprise. We will pass along the cost to the taxpayers. Our cost, not cost plus. So it will have to be a long-term savings for the county. And I appreciate the consideration of public safety last night. I appreciate the consideration of health and ed. It'll go before property management this coming Thursday night. As many committees as we can put this in front of and give more information to as many commissioners as we possibly can. Next week, it'll go before budget. And I'm hoping that more and more people will learn more and more about the benefits of the Forensic Center. Once again, thank you for all of the time that you put in to this. It's been years. And I do appreciate your efforts, and I do appreciate this committee being so attentive tonight to this presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No other comments from others that aren't on this committee, unless one of you asks them forward. We have been captive to a very good presentation, and I think it's time for you guys to discuss, consider, and I'll entertain a motion, neutral or positive, to move it forward. Mr. Gooch.
Thank you. As a member of the Budget Committee, quite often we try to separate the needs from the wants. We do our very, very best to fund the needs and try to fund some wants as we can. Chairman Reed said that this Forensic Center and services is a need, and I agree. My motion is to send this to the County Commission with a positive recommendation.
Ms. Davidson with a second. Any discussion on the motion to forward with a positive recommendation? I will call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Chairman Dodge.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just real quick, I just want to make a clarification. So I know last night my vote was a little different from tonight, but the reason why I did that is because I had additional questions. But for me, I took the time to speak to certain individuals from between last night and tonight. So that's how I make my decisions when I do vote. So when someone wants to criticize how I vote or whatever, just know that I'm trying to do my diligence in getting the facts before I make a final decision going forward. So that's why my vote last night reflected differently from tonight. But I do agree that, you know, with the growth of our county, this is needed, and I'm, you know, happy to support.
Thank you. I consider you a critical thinker, and so I was glad to hear. Thank you for that. I was reluctant to talk to you about it because I didn't want to deliberate. So thank you for clarifying that, and I do agree we need to be critical thinkers. We're in other business. I would like to give Mayor Carr an opportunity to wrap up this conversation.
Just a clarification, the motion was to forward it to commission, but I want to make it clear we are going to property management this Thursday and then budget next Thursday. I just didn't want that to be misunderstood.
Thank you, yes. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, indeed. That concludes our business. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Adjourned.